Hello again, everybody, and welcome to a very surly edition of the Jim Cornette Experience. I am a surly Jim Cornette. There's a thunderstorm going on outside. The plumbers have rescheduled. My lawnmower is quit in the middle. And I got an issue with some of you people today concerning last week's program, and we're going to talk about that. And we're going to review the inaugural effort from All Elite Wrestling. It was a tale of two shows, double or nothing. Some was double, some was nothing. And that's all we're talking about today. And to join me in this, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you, Swammy's Pappy, the former post office playboy, Susie's ex, the proprietor of the French Toast Chateau, your friend and mine, and he is our friend, the great Brian Last.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here for this surly edition of the Jim Cornette Experience, as opposed to all the pleasant and happy editions we've been producing lately.
Well, I tell you, I'm a little extra surly, just a little with the extra cheese and extra surly this morning. And I'll tell you why. Because last week, I thought we did a very fine program. Either we had some lights out political commentary, we had some wrestling talk, some wrestling history, we alerted the people, we tipped the peeps, as they say, to some great wrestling books. We did a variety of stuff on the pro. We had, as I said, witty banter, educated repartee. And I saw three people on Twitter, and this was three too many for me. These obnoxious individuals, three people said, well, I just didn't like the program this week. No, it was too many commercials. It was all commercials. The first hour was all commercials. When besides the fact that we had clearly said in a couple of those cases, I'm not even getting paid for this. This is not a commercial announcement. I'm talking about some new books, some new fine publications that teach folks about wrestling, and we want to alert people to these, but that became a commercial. And it's the Jim Cornette Experience, and I was talking about my experiences. And that became a commercial in these people, these three surly individuals' minds. So I'm going to get surly back. Because I'm not supposed to plug my experiences on the Jim Cornette Experience. I am not supposed to talk about what I do or am doing or am going to do on the Jim Cornette Experience. I'm not supposed to alert the cult of Cornette listeners out there to things that will make their lives better or make their wrestling fandom more enjoyable or service them in some kind of way. I'm not supposed to do that. What is a boy to do?
I like how you called it, I'm not supposed to plug my experiences. I never heard you use that phrase in that way.
I have experiences. I want to share them with you. But no, in all seriousness, what am I, wait, here's the thing. Because not only this, but I am obviously a professional. You can't tell it by this show sometimes, but I'm a professional broadcaster. I do color commentary, and I do historical pieces on major television networks such as BN Sports and Fight TV and Viceland. I do this for a living, so naturally there's things I'm going to be promoting, but it's not just me. These three people, they may want me and my family, poor little Harley Quinn, want her to be without kibble, want Stacy to go without food and sustenance, want me to be out in the street in the gutter like a piece of garbage that people just step over. But not only that, the promoters of these events that I go to, or the television networks that air these programs, or the other people that depend on me for their living. Because I'm hotter than a $2 pistol right now, hotter than Chinese firecrackers. I'm all over the place. A lot of people now are depending on me for their living, for various things. You look at you. You leech. I mean, you partner with me in a variety of items.
That's right.
But so now these three low class, no good individuals on Twitter want all of these people to go broke and bankrupt and their families and loved ones thrown in the street. How cruel, how sadistic, how sinister, how devilish can these people be to have a mindset like that they want all these people to live broke and penniless in the gutter with a whiskey bottle in our back pockets just to gratify them with a commercial-free episode.
Well, listen, first of all, there are a lot of nutcases on Twitter. I would caution you to ignore most of them. And secondly, they may have a point. And if they feel that way, I know an attorney they can call to make sure there are no more extra commercials on the Jim Cornette Experience. And that's the law office of Stephen P. New.
That's newlawoffice.com. 888-692-8084 is what you're talking about?
And by the way, that's a free plug. For anyone wondering, we just did a free plug.
Yeah, no, we didn't get paid for that. No, but see, we're providing services here. And here's another thing. Is there supposed to be no money for crippled children or cancer victims? For example, the new Hate is a Hell of a Motivator t-shirt on sale at jimcornette.com. Every shirt sold, $5 off, goes to the WHAS Crusade for Children. The crusade, by the way, is this weekend, June 1st and 2nd, the telethon, and you can donate, whether you're in Louisville or not, at whascrusade.org. But am I not supposed to mention that at jimcornette.com when you click on collectibles, that every shirt you buy, the Hate is a Hell of a Motivator shirt, $5 to the kids? Am I not supposed to talk about the fact that the autographed Midnight Express reunion photos, a limited number, Lane, Eaton, Condrey, and Cornette, all 4 members, autographed, on sale, the same place, with $5 from every photo going to the American Cancer Society? I'm just supposed to slough off the cancer victims for these people who want all this wall-to-wall gratification with no commercial announcements therein?
I'm starting to think that people on Twitter like cancer.
Well, it as a service to the Cult of Cornette members, I often tell them where I'm going to be. For example, this weekend, I'm going to be live in suburban Milwaukee, Waukesha, Wisconsin, for a live BN Sports special, MLW 9 o'clock Eastern, of course, and then also a television taping in the same night. We encourage folks to come on out there, and I'm going to be in Florence, Kentucky, Greater Cincinnati, at the Florence Freedom Game with Jim Ross and Billy Gunn of AEW. I don't want to get any rumors started. Thursday, June 6th. I'm going to be there. There's going to be a VIP ticket with Q&A and autographs and everything, FlorenceFreedom.com. I'm going to be back in Chicago, one of the biggest cities in the country, the home of Al's #1 Chicago Italian beef, I'll have you know. I'm going to be there, and I'm maybe bringing something special with me, but I'm going to be in Chicago on July 6th for MLW. And then, of course, July 12th through the 14th in Knoxville, Tennessee at the Fanboy Expo. July 13th, the Saturday only, the Midnight Express, will all 3 be with me. Am I not supposed to tell people about this?
Outrageous. How could you put so many plugs into your own show?
It's just, it's ridiculous is what it is. It's absolutely ridiculous that these people should expect all of these people in the Cornette industry to go hungry because we are not allowed to promote this on my own vehicle here, as they say in broadcasting.
And by the way, let me apologize if you hear any noise in the background. The asshole across the way has been mowing her fucking lawn for over 2 hours now. So I apologize if there's any noise.
You have been talking off the air to me about the asshole next door to you mowing their lawn constantly. Do they just mow it in a continuous loop?
I have a lot of property. She has a lot of property. But still, at a certain point, go take a fucking nap.
I got a lot of property too. They come and they mow. They're done. There's 3 of them. They're done in 3 hours.
It's not that much money. I have a great crew. They come here, every Friday, or if it rains on Saturday, and they take care of everything, and I don't have to worry about a fucking thing. This woman, every single fucking day, she's out there mowing the fucking lawn. It's amazing.
It sounds like a personal problem to me. Are you sure? Well, you're up in New Jersey. It could be the female version of Vincent the Chin Gigante. She's walking around in a bathrobe, pissing in the backyard, trying to make people think she's crazy so they won't indict her on the RICO statute.
Maybe it's more she's mowing away the pain. I really don't know what the hell she's doing. But enough. Fuck.
Well, I heard that you have done a show recently where our old friend, Happy Heyman, the Jovial Jew, was putting a mouth on me, as our old friend Dennis used to say.
Well, I wouldn't put it exactly that way. It's not a current thing where Happy Heyman came on and said anything disparaging about you.
Well, no, if I haven't heard it, it's new to me, and apparently I have not heard about this. Apparently this was some slanderous talk that Paul Heyman engaged in against me that I'm just now hearing about. It's been some time back, and it was on John Arezzi's massive Pro Wrestling Spotlight radio show that used to air up in the New York City area before he got a bad sponsor that got him kicked off the fucking air.
Well, there's more to that story, of course. But yes, I've recently launched a show with John Arezzi, Pro Wrestling Spotlight Then and Now, where we go over the past episodes and we review them. We talk about various clips. We play clips. We talk about the behind the scenes stuff. It's really been a lot of fun and thankfully very, very popular so far. And thank you to everyone who's checked it out. But in going through the audio, I'm hearing stuff I never heard before. You know, the show started in the spring of 1989, April 1989. And on this episode, for episode 3, which will be coming up pretty soon if you subscribe already, pwspod.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And I wanted to play this for you. I talked to you about it on
Well, yeah, because I have not heard this. This is unearthed footage, sort of like the fucking grab their pussy tape from Access Hollywood. It just come to light now that Heyman was knocking me, and I've never gotten an opportunity to rebut this as far as I know. So I'm interested to hear what he has to say.
Let me reiterate. This is 1989.
Well, you know me. I can hold a grudge. I can get mad over anything. I want to hear what this numbnuts had to say about me, whether it be 1989 or not.
Okay, I'll play this now, and to put it in proper context, I'm going to play a phone call that John received before this portion of his conversation with Heyman, which is pretty outrageous and out of control from beginning to end. But again, this is from April 22nd, 1989, as heard on John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight, and as reviewed on the new podcast, John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight, Then and Now on the Arcadian Vanguard podcast.
Well, there's an original title for you.
Well, there's a reason, because we talk now about what happened then, but let's go to this.
Well, there you go. It makes perfect sense now.
Let's go to this audio right now.
Pro Wrestling Spotlight, you're on the air.
Hi, it's Ken from Amityville.
How you doing, Ken?
I wanted to ask you something about the Midnight Express. I heard rumors that they were going over to the CWS and Aussie.
Well, right now there's controversy about the Midnight Express. They did leave the NWA. Their whereabouts next remain to be seen. There are all sorts of rumors flying about. We're going to have an interview upcoming with Paulie Dangerously when he talks about this whole situation. We've been trying to get Jim Cornette on the telephone to discuss what the future plans were for the Midnight Express. We just don't know. We'll hope to have some more information on this next week.
All right, let's go over a couple things. First of all, the feud you had with Jim Cornette.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and the Midnight Express, which you say is not the original Midnight Express, appears to be over. The result, Jim Cornette is now leaving the NWA.
He quit. He's not just leaving, he quit.
I heard he's coming back.
Oh, well, you heard wrong, let me tell you. He quit. He not only violated his contract has been null and void, but Jim Cornette, and I personally know this for a fact because I bribe people, Jim Cornette has turned in all his licenses to every single state that he's licensed as a manager. Jim Cornette has quit professional wrestling. I have copies of his license in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, all these states. He has turned in his license to be an active professional wrestling manager. If he were ever to come back, I'd see him coming from a mile away.
Well, must make you feel pretty good, then, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. It does, because it proves what I've been saying all along, that he's a gutless, filthy, stinking coward that his mother raised. Because you see, a man would have retired. A man would have had a farewell. A man would have come out and said, hey, I met a better manager. A man would have come out and said, hey, I met somebody that's better than I am, so I have to get away. No, he quit. He didn't give his beloved fans a goodbye. He didn't give his beloved fans a farewell match. He quit. After Bobby got carried out on the stretcher in the Omni in Atlanta, he quit. He didn't even have his wrestlers come out on TV with him to say goodbye because he's the big shot of the team. He had to come out there and do it all by himself. That's his problem. He doesn't know where his money is.
All right, let's stop gloating on that one, all right?
Gloating? You're
gloating.
Too. Hey, if Howard Stern called you up and said, hey, you're a better disc jockey than I am, I'm quitting New York, I'm going back to D.C. 101, you'd be on the air every day going, hi, this is John Arezzi, the guy that ran Howard Stern out of New York. But no, you won't give me the satisfaction of doing it when I take down a guy that's been on top for 6 years and everybody's trying to knock him off his throne and I do it in 5 months. But no, I can't gloat about it, huh? Okay, big shot, what's your next question? I said the Midnight Express of Bob Eaton and Stan Lane that they would go down. And they said, oh, no, Paulie, they can't go down. They're the Midnight Express. And down they went. Who by? The SST and Paul E. I said to everybody, Jim Cornette's going to prove to be a sniveling, gutless, crying coward that his mother raised. Everybody said, oh, no, Paulie, Jim Cornette won't give up to you. And now he's home in Louisville, Kentucky at his mother's escort service. So the fact of the matter is, as good as the new generation are, they don't have the guts.
Well, there you hear it, Jim, some original audio from 1989. By the way, he talks about the new generation at the end, the original name for the Dynamic Dudes, the new generation.
Yeah, and then that didn't last long. And actually, come to think of it, the new generation probably wouldn't have got as much heat as the Dynamic Dudes did. But nevertheless, I find it ironic. I wanted to get worked up and get mad at Paul E. But I find it ironic that the guy that once said that I sounded like Mickey Mouse on amphetamines, now, thanks to the fact that he's so old, he's turned into a modern-day version of Alfred Hitchcock, and his voice has deepened, and the 30-year-old cassette tape that's playing at about 1 1/4 speed, he sounds like Mickey Mouse. And John Arezzi, by the way, does not sound like Alvin the Chipmunk either. That's cassette tapes now. But and, this makes it all the sweeter that the first thing that I did when the Midnight Express and I came back was at that Great American Bash pay-per-view in 1989. About 2 months after that phone call was recorded, I beat the crap out of Paul E. dangerously, and I stripped him almost naked. I didn't want to cause everybody in the Baltimore arena, it was sold out. I didn't want to cause them to cancel their checks to prevent blindness by seeing him completely naked. But I beat him up and stripped him down, and I was a one-legged man when I did it. As I've told that story before, I'd blown my right knee out the night before in Philadelphia, and I came in there one-legged and still kicked Paulie's ass. It sounded kind of like Chip and Dale there.
I know everyone loves Paulie now, but I actually enjoyed that version of Paul. The snot-nosed kid versus the, son of a lawyer or whatever he's playing now. The advocate.
Yeah, well, but I don't blame him for changing, because at some point, when I couldn't pull the mama's boy off anymore, and also now, he can't look like a snot-nosed punk now when he looks like he's been floating in a river for 3 days. But he can't talk just like me. He can't talk that fast anymore. He doesn't have the wind. But man, I was the only person ever to blow, or he was the only person that I was ever able to blow up in a wrestling match. I was always the one blowed up, except when I worked with Paul, and he was so fucking nervous anyway. He never breathed.
So for the record, though, did your mom have an escort service?
No. It was one of those things that they take the big trucks down the interstate highways, with the flashing lights and everything. He got it mixed up, but that's one of the trucking concerns that she owned. But nevertheless, no. But I mean, I would have done exactly the same thing, and they wouldn't let him do it on TBS on television, so he did it on New York radio. But I would have taken credit for running him out if he'd have fucking quit too. But of course, as we know, we've told the story. It was George Scott, and we were sitting out waiting for George Scott to get fired. And we told a story a couple weeks ago, maybe on the drive-through, that we made a couple of shows in Continental for Bill Dundee, who was the booker in the time that we had taken off. Because we quit. We gave our notice that we would finish up like the middle of April, like April 15th when our contract was up. And we were just going to go home, and Bobby's knee was bothering him, and we were going to wait until they fired George Scott. Well, then they fired George Scott after the Clash of Champions in the Superdome, which was April 6th or 7th. So then JR was the head of the interim booking committee, and he came and asked if we would come back before we left. And we said, no, we've got a couple of dates next month for Dundee, and we were looking forward to time off. So that's why originally it was not planned that I did the promo that aired on television about how that we were taking time off of our own volition because we had been doing jobs for the Samoan SWAT team and everybody, because George Scott was jobbing us out. So to rehab our image, we said Bobby's knee has been bad. He's got injuries. We're mentally burned out. We're not going to come back until we can be the best tag team in the world again, as we've been for all these years. Because we made that deal for us to come back in the World Tag Title Tournament. And then where we went to the finals or whatever the fuck it was with the Freebirds. And they went with the Freebirds because they were the heels and they were trying to get heat on them. So Paul E. had like 6 weeks in the middle there to brag that he had run us off before we came back.
Well, like I said, hear more audio like that on Pro Wrestling Spotlight then and now at pwspod.com or wherever you find your favorite podcast. Just put Arcadian Vanguard in the search bar and it'll pop right up.
It pops right up. You know what else popped up on my television set? A brand new wrestling promotion.
Uh-oh.
The other day. No, I've been dreading doing this, but we promised the fans, and every good promoter always delivers what he promises. We promised the fans we were going to review All Elite Wrestling's first pay-per-view, Double or Nothing, because before All In was the Bucks, the All Elite, Tony Khan, his ownership, etc., was not involved. So this was their very first show, and I was wanting. And I'm not going to shit all over everything. There's going to be some things that I praise very highly, but you're going to have to sit through a lot of fucking shit first. I'm just going to tell you now. I didn't want to shit all over everything because then it's just me shitting all over everything and people, he ain't going to like it even if it's good. So I went into it with the thought that I hope that there's enough good that I don't have to shit all over it. But I also went into it once again, like everybody else that is a new viewer of this promotion went into it, not knowing what the fuck was going to go on or what the majority of the talent roster was going to be or what the style was going to be. Show me something, right? Impress me. I didn't go in as I'm going to pick all this apart, because when I start picking anything in modern wrestling apart, I can find something wrong with everything. But all in all, here's the thing. For people who like that kind of thing, that's the kind of thing those people like, is a saying for a reason. Everybody that ordered the pay-per-view went into it wanting to like it. It's the same thing as when any cult promotion or cult group gets into the big time, their fans go into it wanting to like it. And so therefore they overlook things. You see what I'm saying? They look past. Remember I said Steve Austin was so over that even though his kicks in the corner looked like shit, nobody saw that because he was so over. Because people look past shit like that. For the people who wanted to like this program and want these people to succeed, there's things they look over. I don't look over those things because I have eyes and I'm honest. I was waiting for them to impress me, and some people did, which we'll talk about.
But one of the things though, Jim, is, and it's such a unique sensation, that if you go on Twitter, for instance, and say anything, even remotely considered negative, a criticism, a constructive criticism, anything, you hear from the people. You hear from, you don't like modern wrestling. Oh, these people that are into the Bucks and into Cody, they are so into it, they don't want any other opinion to exist. If you don't like this, you don't like wrestling is a popular thing. I've been hit with a few times.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Well, yeah, I got news for you. I've liked wrestling since before y'all were a gleam in your father's eye, as my mother used to say. But here's the thing. In all honesty, for this thing to succeed, follow me on this, folks. For this thing to succeed, they have to draw a bigger audience than what independent wrestling draws today. They've shown that they have a very devoted following, but they need, I think everybody would agree, they need to make new fans and restore, how do they call them? Lapsed fans.
Yeah.
20 years ago, there was 10 million people watching wrestling on Monday nights. Now there's 2. So all those other people are not watching all the independents. There are a lot of them are watching me on MLW, but I digress. But no, they've gone. and there's other people that have been born in the last 20 years that may be wrestling fans if they saw wrestling that they liked. So the point is, it's universally accepted they have to make new fans. That's what a major national cable network television deal is for. And they don't have that on the air yet. So this is not the Double or Nothing was not the be all and end all of what we're going to see from these people. I understand that. But it was the first show for a new company, especially a new company that spent a lot of money. So one would think that with all the buzz and all the publicity and et cetera, they would have hoped that some fans that have not watched the Young Bucks and Cody and Kenny Omega, but that are turned off WWF fans or fans of one of the other promotions that they have not been involved in or whatever the fuck, you'd think some new people, they would want to have watched this show. correct? Am I crazy for thinking this?
That would be their intention, I would think, yes.
Okay, well, that's primarily where they fucking shit the bed. And I will tell you why. I got this email the next day from Joey. Dear Jim, thank God AEW had a pre-show. Without it, I would have wasted $50. During the Battle Royal, I cringed in my seat as I observed the following. A wrestler pouring lube on himself to get out of a waistlock, someone soft-kicking, quotation marks, Tommy Dreamer, and 2 librarians going into the camera for what felt like an eternity. My question is, how long do you give AEW on television if they keep this goofy shit up? I'm estimating 6 months. Why wouldn't anybody think that? With what? And let me start out. Once again, the television production, let's get this out of the way, was fucking fantastic from a technical standpoint. The video, the audio, we've talked about audio being the hardest thing to do on a live wrestling event. The video, the audio, the camera shots, the color, the camera placements, the building looked great. You'd see they were in a major arena with a lot of people there. I didn't even know it was Keith Mitchell that was producing the show. From Keith, of course, from TNA, and he worked in WCW years ago, etc. But that makes sense because he's done high-level productions. The videos were fantastic. I found out later on they were from Kevin Sullivan, not the wrestler Kevin Sullivan, but the TNA guy Kevin Sullivan. And he was a fucking genius too, so that makes sense that was great. However, the first hour, and I tuned in at 7 o'clock because that's when my cable guide listed that the pay-per-view was starting. So at 7 o'clock, I started getting programming. And that first hour would have, if I hadn't already done this, and I'm going to, obviously this is a business expense, I'm going to write it off. But if I hadn't already spent $50 on that pay-per-view and could write it off after I saw the first hour of this show, I was pissed when I was watching this show that I bought the fucking pay-per-view because I was going to cancel the whole review, right? But it was too late now. I was already in it. What? Once again, as a new viewer, as somebody who's watched WWF and maybe hasn't seen any of these fucking guys, but is this new promotion that everybody's talking about, I'm going to give them a chance. They open up the program and the announcers are Alex Marvez and Excalibur. For those of you who don't know, Alex Marvez is a journalist, wrote for the Miami Herald for years. I guess he's still there as he moved on to another newspaper. But
he's a heralded football writer. He's actually considered a great writer. Yeah.
He is an amazing sports journalist in the newspaper world and has, to my knowledge, never done a wrestling broadcast before in his life. And it showed. And I've had no cross words with Alex Marvez. I've done a number of interviews with him over the years. I have no bone to pick with him. But no, either somebody should have said, this is ridiculous to put a guy with no broadcasting experience that's never done this job before, not on the OVW television or local television to get some experience, but on worldwide fucking pay-per-view, and announce him as the lead voice or one of the voices of our company and a lead voice on the fucking pregame show. He looked like a hostage video. When he wasn't scared, he was lost. When he wasn't lost, he was whispering. No. I'm sorry, Alex, but you can't. I couldn't just walk into the Miami Herald and start turning out copy and doing journalism, even though I am quite the writer.
He was awful, but it wasn't his fault. I mean, he didn't put himself there. And I think after seeing some of his performances during the...
Yes, he kind of did, because here's the thing. No. If somebody asks me to do something and I know that there is no possible way that I can fucking do it right, I'm going to say no. There was no reason to believe he was going to be any good.
I agree with that. And he wasn't.
Okay, brings me to the other fucking clown that I'm even more pissed at. Because the other guy, You can tell he's inexperienced working. I guess he's done commentary for the Outlaws in Los Angeles, right? Independent shows in California.
He's probably best known for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla.
Okay. You can tell that he's never worked with that level of a production before. I could tell a few things, but overall, he is good and probably will get better as he gets more experience at this level. However, he's shit the bed already. Because Excalibur, folks, for those of you who didn't watch this, is a guy with a mask on. That was really the name they announced him at, as Excalibur, a guy with a mask. And don't tell anybody why that the fucking head voice of this pregame show is obviously an amateur that looks like he's in his goddamn kid's birthday video. And the guy next to him, supposedly the color commentator, is a guy named Excalibur wearing a mask, and we don't know why. And I'll tell you why. Why is because this was his gimmick when he did outlaw shows and indie shows in California. And somebody thought that it would be a good idea, since nobody else in the fucking world has ever heard of this fucking guy, to take a guy who could be a good color analyst, and instead of introducing him by whatever the fuck his name is or whatever real name they wanted to make up for him, Joe Smith, I don't give a fuck. Instead, they carry his outlaw wrestling gimmick over to worldwide pay-per-view and what is going to be a national cable television program. And so automatically, before I've even seen a wrestler, this is the worst announcing ever on a major event that I've ever seen, as they ran down the card, and already I have no faith whatsoever in the announcers that I'm listening to. One guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and the other guy is a goofy gimmick. And I blame whoever put him on the air, but I also blame that guy for not saying to them, look, guys, I did this gimmick on indie shows, but this is going to be a big fucking deal, this company with a lot of money, national television. I'm going to take the mask off. I'm going to wear the nice suit that I'm wearing and call me a real goddamn name, and I will provide expert color analysis. Instead, he was so fucking wrapped up in the fact that he used to work in front of 400 people in a fucking barn that know who he is, that he sabotaged the credibility of the announcing team on this brand new company the first time we see these fucking people. So then we go right to Justin Roberts, formerly of the WWE, who's the ring announcer, who I thought was going to have a hernia a couple of times, but he and Tim Barr may have a fucking grunt off at some point from MLW, but he could have brought that down. And they announced the rules of the Battle Royal, which I couldn't follow. As I watched it, I figured out what they were doing, but it was they're trying to reimagine the Battle Royal. This time, 20 guys, whoever drew a heart or whatever suit they drew, heart, spade, club, diamond. There were 5 in each group. When they flashed up the diamonds, all the guys, 5 guys who drew diamonds came out. You see where I'm going with this? Here we go. This is the first match that anybody has ever seen from this promotion. And in the ring are MJF, and much more on him soon. One of the most talented guys in the business today of any length of time of experience.
Absolutely.
And I wrote these names down, even though they were all starting in the ring. So when they announced the names, there's 5 guys in the ring, they said 5 names. So if you don't know, you weren't going to find out until they started calling them individually who these fucking people were. MJF, Sunny Days, Brandon Cutler, Michael Nakazawa, and Dustin Thomas. And I'm swearing to God to you, I wrote down the first line I wrote on my notes. There's a guy in here with no legs. And apparently it was Dustin Thomas, as we would find out here shortly. He's a double amputee, and he was laying, sitting, perched. I don't know what the fuck you call that position. He's in the ring. He has no legs, and his upper body is not that fucking huge. And once again, I'm not knocking this guy. He's got more guts than I do. And it horrible that he had to have his legs amputated, and all respect to him. This is the first thing I see from a new wrestling and the announcer is talking about how great this is, that everybody gets a chance. If this guy's lifelong dream was to play in the NFL, would they put him in a fucking game? If he was the biggest basketball fan in the world, would the NBA let him go out there and pass the ball in a game? If it's not right there, then it's not right here for the business and for this guy. And then MJF, of course, who was the star of this fucking fiasco, immediately goes over and starts stomping a mud hole in the legless guy. So MJF is he's a fucking genius.
He's the best heel in wrestling.
Yeah, he's one of the best everythings in wrestling, as we'll talk about more. I keep saying that, but first, I can't get over this. So, and then after they stomped him, the guy just spent most of his time laying there. And then later, well, hold on, we'll get to that. But then Sunny Days is a guy that's painted yellow. So when we figured that out, then the Michael Nakazawa, a guy gets a waistlock on him and he comes out of his tights with a bottle of baby oil and pours it all over himself and gets slick and slips out of the hold. And then he keeps pouring the oil on himself because that's his thing. And the legless guy lays there, and Cutler and MJF were doing some okay stuff, but I don't know what the fuck. Then the Diamonds were supposedly next, but it ground to a halt because they had some mishap or something. But then Brian Pillman Jr. and some other guy came out, and Pillman tossed him off the ramp into the fucking crowd. I don't know what the fuck. And then Jimmy Havoc and Joey Janela, there's a pair, jump Brian and suplex him on the fucking ramp. And then Sean Spears comes out. And then MJF and Spears do some good shit, and the legless guy is still laying there, but along with everybody else, because they would just all lay there and sell something for an inordinate period of time while two guys would do spots in the ring where they wouldn't have to fall on anybody. And it didn't make any fucking sense. And also, by the way, folks, this Battle Royal, the winner of this Battle Royal will fight in the future for the brand new first time ever AEW championship. So already we've been expected to believe that a legless man, a fucking guy painted yellow, a goddamn where was the other one? The guy with the baby oil. All these people could possibly be fighting for the most prestigious thing that this company could bestow on one of its talents, its World Heavyweight Championship. Here come the Hearts. And that's later, not the Hart family, but the Hart suit. Billy Gunn, Glacier, Ray Lloyd, Jungle Boy, Mark somebody, and Ace Romero. And MJF and Glacier got in the center of the ring and did decent shit. But everybody else then just goes to the sides. And I know, once again, that's a lot of battle royals, but this is a battle royal with a lot of green fucking people in it. And then there's Billy Gunn working hard trying to do, whatever he can do. They did a bunch of outlaw battle royal shit. And then somehow Janela is sitting in the ring. This is that fucking idiot that just does stupid shit for attention. Janela's sitting in the ring, lights a cigarette in the middle of the match, but then somehow, and we missed this, thank goodness, they didn't get this on camera because they would have turned more people off. Jimmy Havoc staples the cigarette to Janela's forehead with his staple gun, because now it's also legal to have a staple gun in this fucking match with the winner going for the AEW championship. This is so outlaw. It's so bullshit. People used to, at least even watching the WWF, if they're used to silly, this is still just so outlaw and distasteful. Then here come the fucking Spades, which is Luchasaurus, which is a guy in a dinosaur mask, Marco Stunt. The fucking little kid that broke his leg is back already, and they're letting him wrestle again. He's going to get fucking killed. And this guy, now that I've seen him for more than a couple of second clip, can't be 5 feet tall and can't be 100 pounds. It's fucking embarrassing. Then here comes Sonny Kiss, who apparently got off his day job at the drag show at the fucking Tropicana. And I don't know, but see, they're not explaining any of this. Marco Stunt. Why is this small child competing in this match with the legless guy and the 400-pound man and all this other, the guy with the dinosaur mask, and then with the transvestite or exotico, as they would say at AAA? Did anybody bother to explain why he looks like that? No, they just accepted that. Here's another member of our roster. No reason to, nothing to look at here, folks. A new view, and then here comes Tommy Dreamer. And the Tommy Dreamer and Billy Gunn, the people that we know could be used to get people we don't know over, and I assume that's why they're there, and Billy Gunn's hired it as an agent, and I even wrote Billy Gunn was trying hard. MJF stole every scene, every time he could capitalize on somebody else's damage that they did and try to get a pin or get an elimination or whatever he did. He was great in everything. Somehow, in the middle of this complete hogwash match, one of the worst outlaw matches ever broadcast around the world, MJF, because of his personality, because of his quick thinking, because it's him saying and doing these things, he doesn't have a writer. He made it work for him. He got heat in this match. Everybody else came out looking like complete, utter shit. Both the people that were shit and the people that tried to make the shit not look like shit. But MJF got over. He's a fucking magician. Anyway, Dreamer comes in with the garbage can and he nails everybody with the lid, and everybody's just laying there again so that they can fucking have the wild card entrance. And here comes Adam Page. And the only... Adam Page was with Ring of Honor back in 2010 and 11. I knew this kid was back 19 back then or whatever. And I knew he was going to be great. He was a great worker then. He's gained a little size. Unless it's storyline, he was selling his knee. Was he really injured, or was that they talked about something that somebody done to him the previous week? But was he really hurt?
I actually don't know. I didn't even get to see the Battle Royal because I was still trying to figure out how to buy the fucking pay-per-view for $50, which is a rip-off price for a brand new product. Actually, but I didn't see it, so I actually don't know.
Oh, okay. See, I thought you were just letting me roll on this. If you didn't see this, everything, if I'm lying, I'm flying and my feet ain't left the ground, everything I'm saying is true. This is exactly what happened. But Paige had his knee taped up, and he was selling real good all night. So, and I hope that it's not serious because, you know, he is one of their potential superstars, but he cleans house. When he hits the ring, he goes and nails everybody, and everybody takes a bump for him. And the only bump that the crowd popped for, guess who?
MJF.
MJF. You are correct. And then suddenly Paige and Janela get in the middle, and they have a bad hockey fight because Janela physically looks like shit. He's one of these fucking guys. I mean, he's pale, fishy white, fucking no tone, no fucking definition, lumpy. Paige hits him with some kind of wild ass fucking finish. I don't know what he called it. Then Marcos, there was more outlaw shit. Here's Marco Stunt. Once again, the announcers, the one that's scared to death and the one that's obviously a fucking clown because he's got a mask on and calls himself Excalibur. So, and we've never heard of him. So it's not like it's Mil Mascaras in Mexico doing the fucking commentary. They're not telling me why that this small child is being allowed to compete as a professional fighter. Marvez plugged the ways that you could get the pay-per-view. It sounded like Patty Hearst reading a statement from the Symbionese Liberation Army.
I wish the SLA would take Alex Marvez.
Then the legless guy, I swear, gave Janela a 619 and then got up on the top rope and splashed him off the top rope. And then the legless guy eliminated Shawn Spears. Then MJF dumped the legless guy. So at least it ended well because MJF got some more fucking heat. But once again, obviously, I don't know. And I'm hoping they haven't signed him to some exclusive deal because I love MJF and MLW. And he's going to be there coming up this weekend. And I want to be around him more often. But they obviously know what kind of talent he is, because unless he just said, fuck it, some of this stuff required obvious setup beforehand, so they had to be featuring MJF. But I don't think anybody could have known that he'd get over like this in the middle of this fucking scrambled egg bunch of bullshit. Then Luchasaurus chokeslammed Janela over the top rope through a table at ringside. And, of course, everybody went, oh, wow, that's so fucking great. Wow. Brian, this table was sitting at ringside. Nobody was sitting at it. There were no chairs at it. There's no monitors on it. It was right in the middle of the ring, not in any of the corners. It was just there so the guy could get chokeslammed through it. What the fuck? Stupid. So anyway, then Tommy Dreamer is in with Sonny Kiss. Sonny Kiss did the old, imagine an upside down Bobo Brazil, where Bobo used to get in the turnbuckle and lift his legs and put them on the guy's shoulders and head scissor him that way. Sonny Kiss was upside down doing a push up on the top turnbuckle with the guy's legs, or his legs around Dreamer's neck. And he starts bringing his legs in and running Tommy Dreamer's face into his fucking ass. And Tommy Dreamer is like Mick Foley. He is way too fucking nice. And he wants to help these fucking guys get over, even when he is helping guys that have in no way deserved to get over or have a prayer of getting over, get over with this bullshit, which you'll find out in a minute. After Sonny Kiss does that to poor Tommy Dreamer, then some clown named Orange Cassidy gets in. I didn't even see where he came into this fucking thing, right? He just appeared somehow. Hey, I don't think he was announced, but they said his name's Orange Cassidy when he gets in the ring. He's wearing blue jeans and no shirt. He might weigh 150 pounds, fishy white. He looks like one of these fucking skateboard fucks that you see on these stupid videos on ridiculousness, right? He gets in Dreamer's face with his hands in his pockets of his jeans, and he starts just kind of lightly play kicking Dreamer's legs over and over. And so Dreamer hauls off and fucking decks him. The guy takes the bump, keeps his hands in his pockets, and then nips up with his hands in his pockets. And then Dreamer throws him over the top rope. So now Tommy Dreamer's a fake, phony outlaw piece of shit because he was willing to sacrifice his credibility to cooperate with this fucking clown that did nothing and just made the whole match fucking phony and bullshit, because you can tell some of the fans knew who this guy was that were there live, right? So that means apparently he's a fucking thing. And this is what I was worried about, is these guys signing their friends instead of people that have a prayer of getting over in a major league level on a mainstream basis, and it dragging. And if this guy's spending a lot of fucking money and he's being ill-served in a fiduciary sense so far by somebody.
He knows what he's into.
Well, then it's his fault. Havoc staple guns Dreamer in the nuts and tosses him out. And then a bunch of people gang up on MJF, but he rolls out of the ring underneath. Basically, Excalibur is as phony up at this point as Alex Marvez is bland. Adam Page dumps the Luchasaurus. MJF comes back in and dumps Paige, but Paige holds on, flips back in, and hits a big lariat, which was the best spot of the fucking match, and clotheslines MJF out. And that the last 30 seconds, basically, once it got down to Paige and MJF, it was great. It looked like two guys knew what they were doing, brought the roof off. MJF and Paige got over in the middle of the most embarrassing thing that I've ever seen in a fucking wrestling ring. Fuck everybody that had anything to do with putting that fucking thing together or executing it, because you all set wrestling back 50 fucking years. And poor ref Paul Turner from Ring of Honor, I hope they're paying him a fortune. I'm disappointed in Tommy Dreamer and Billy Gunn just for lending his presence to that. They did crowd shots. There were absolutely no children in the whole building and no adults over 35.
I will say one thing, Jim, that I noticed later on in the show, because you brought up the production earlier. I was wondering if the crowd was quiet at times or not. I talked to people in the building who said the crowd was super into everything and you wouldn't know it at all times. I don't think they did a good job of miking the crowd.
Well, I saw them a lot of times when they were super into everything while they were sitting there very still. So,
okay.
I'm just running through my notes here because it's 7:30 now. The announcing continues to suck. There's more billboards for matches. They tossed to Justin Roberts, even though they're not going to him. They do a bad switch. Then there's frozen video. Then no, we're going backstage. So to Alicia Atout with Smiley Kylie Ray, who is a girl who comes in like she's fucking overly happy. I think this must be like a Road Warrior, Demolition, Bailey, and Smiley Kylie, because they're all happy.
Yeah.
Bootleg Bailey.
Because even if she did it first, when you see her there, that's the only thing you could think of. You've seen Bailey. This is a ripoff of Bailey. That's
but it got
a logical conclusion.
It got a little fucking old real quick. But then here comes someone who was announced as Peter Avalon, the librarian, who shushes them and then gets shushed by Leva Bates, the librarian, and then they shush at each other a bunch. And, of course, the people in the building are going wild over this, like anybody would know what the fuck is going on. And Marvez actually says, this is a quote, "This is the problem when you have two librarians." Then announcers feel awkwardly. Then a very well done Cody and Dustin package. Both guys did a great job. It was serious. It was edited well. It's a tale of two shows here. Here comes Sammy Guevara with a panda bear head on versus Kip Sabian. Both guys are 180 pounds. There's a female referee, which is fine, but not for guys' matches. Unless you can find one like fucking Donna Daring, like I had in OVW, where she was as big as the guys and could whip half of them. But I mean,
explain that, because people are going to jump on that. When you say not for the guys' matches, why exactly?
Well, because it's a phony show anyway because of the previous Battle Royal we've seen. But would you see it in the UFC? Would you see it in boxing? If it's so dangerous to be near this violent fight that's going on between these two, between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, would a 130-pound woman have been the referee getting in there in the clinches and mixing it up? It doesn't look right visually. It indicates that woman is not worried about getting a stray fucking shot in the face. So apparently this is not as dangerous as it's supposed to look, in my opinion. I'm not, and I don't know, it just, But anyway, the announcers in this match are saying pinfalls and wins and losses are going to matter here. Like, why wouldn't they? You're talking to the fucking newsletters and the fucking websites. Why would that? Doesn't make any sense. If you win, it would obviously be better than if you lose. They're talking smart. The announcers are using fan terms like this guy works different shows. This was a nice athletic high spot match, but I don't know anybody could have taken this as a contest. It was guys putting on a performance. These are two guys that if they had a little bit better size and you had them in the OVW program or something for a year or so, or I had them, maybe not now, but I'm just speaking for me, to get rid of bad habits and get them focused, you would have something. But right now they're copying shit that they've seen on outlaw shows. There was one guy vertical suplex the other guy over the top rope, and they both took the bump, ass over tea kettle over the top rope, and landed on their feet, and then the guy held on and snap suplexed the guy on the floor. So they took a little pissy bump that really hurt, instead of just taking a bump from the one where they obviously did it perfectly and not landing on their feet, and people would, it just shit like that. And the one guy did a shooting star press off the apron to the other guy on the railing outside, then missed a flip, and the other guy hit his finish and won. So 4 hospitalization angles in the last 4 moves. They did a video on a girl named Sadie Gibbs. It was great stuff, shot and produced well. I'd like to see more of this young lady. Seems like the videos are having that effect, just the live shit. Then listen, we come back to arena shots, and they do a bad introduction of Jim Ross.
I saw this. Now, by this point in time, I was watching.
Okay. And his music starts, and you see JR walking in an empty backstage area, and then he doesn't come into the arena. For the people, for the pop, they pitched to it, and he was walking backstage, and they were playing music, and he never came out on the air. Instead, they go to a truck with Cody and Brandy and their dog pulling up, and Omega shows up making goofy faces and walking around the corner. Then Mike Jackson. He wishes he was Mike Jackson. Matt Jackson acts goofy meeting Nakazawa, and then Nick walks in, and they come up on a backstage personnel guy with papers in his hand, and they super kick him. So
this is exactly what wrestling fans have been clamoring for. More backstage goofy segments. If the WWE did some of the things that the Young Bucks do, they would get killed. But because it's them, they get away with it.
Well, no, they're about to get killed.
Silly, stupid shit.
Yes.
No more backstage segments. Anyone is starting a wrestling company. Enough. I don't need to see anything in the locker room or backstage unless it's a brawl or something.
But listen, what they have done here is in their first show for no reason, just to giggle their fans, instead of the new fans that are wondering what the fuck's going on here, they've wasted an angle. If you fucking hit a backstage employee, a security person, or a goddamn a fucking production crew member or whatever, then you can tie that in. Vader or Brock Lesnar, somebody's running roughshod and somebody got hurt. The police have been called. Maybe there's a lawsuit going to go on, whatever the fuck. Or we can just make it obviously phony and mean nothing and just get it out of the way, which is what they did. Because that's then they played a video of everybody as video game characters. Kenny and Matt and Nick, and they're on the video game screen. It's so fucking childish. Then here comes Omega and Cody and the Bucks and Brandy on stage, and they try to welcome everybody. Of course, Omega gets to be the one who does it and calls it a show. Welcome to the show. Kenny Omega, I'm going to go on record, talks like a complete douchebag. I read an interview in Fighting Spirit magazine last month, and I figured this is a guy I would never want to be trapped in a conversation with. He talks about wrestling and his wrestling like instead of being a professional fighter simulating combat, like he's goddamn Laurence Olivier on the stage at the Hammersmith Odeon, and he's fucking emoting. He sounds like a complete douchebag, and he's got that whiny little pussy-ass voice that I couldn't possibly take him seriously if he ever was to get mad, which he never seems to, because it's all a performance with him instead of goddamn whatever the fuck. But anyway.
Pretentious.
Unfunny, there you go. Unfunny, happy talk. And then Brandy said, the first sensory-inclusive event in wrestling history. She is trying to tell people that everybody involved in this event had their senses about them? Because the Battle Royals already proved her wrong. I don't know what that even means. And then at 8 p.m., they got to go on pay-per-view, and they faded to black while Cody was still talking because nobody gave him, I don't know what the fuck, nobody gave him a cue. Anyway, they have the national anthem by somebody named Chris Jackson, who's not Mike Jackson or Matt Jackson, or I don't even think he's related. I don't know if he's related to the Jacksons or the Jackson 5. The open video had great graphics and etc. And then they open with Jim Ross, who they've paid a fortune for, who's the most respected announcer in the game, who was the voice of Monday Night for so many years. And he's next to a guy who's never done a broadcast before and an outlaw wrestler in a mask. So instead of being able to bring his partners up because they have half of something to them to begin with, as he usually does, in a number of cases here, his partners were bringing JR down, especially when he would pitch them something like, explain this new rule to us, whichever one, and they would then fucking emit a word salad that sounded like Donald Trump having a series of small strokes.
Or Marvez would whisper.
Or he'd do the golf commentary. So then here comes SCU, Chris Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky, and they're going to wrestle the Strong Hearts, who are the team from OWE, the Chinese team, but apparently they're Japanese. More on this in a minute. Daniels had a microphone and a stand. They insulted the town and the people cheered, so I assume that this is a gimmick they've been doing because I haven't watched them either here lately. But they each talked, and the fans, Frankie got the fans to say SCU, so they're liking them. I'm not sure that the OWE team ever tried to be the straight up heels, but anyway, the Chinese or Japanese team, apparently they're the Japanese trainers of Chinese wrestlers in OWE, which is in fucking China. this is confusing, but the Chinese look good. These guys are all athletes. The in-ring picked way up suddenly. They're all so good, so smooth. The shit made more sense. It was fast. It was precise. SC, I've always been a fan of Daniels. I like Frankie Kazarian. I've just praised Daniels because he's been around longer, but Frankie's great. First time I'd seen Scorpio Sky, and he's fucking tremendous. Little things, they did simultaneous tags, so they were cold, and then they all traded the big move like that everybody does in these matches, but still, it was good stuff. It was a lot to follow, and it went on for a while, and then everybody dove everywhere. But Daniels and Frankie finally hit a moonsault tombstone for the win. I would hope it'd be the goddamn win, but it's too much, but they did it at a high level and they were all serious about it. So that couldn't have been the first fucking match we see out of this promotion, but instead we get the legless guy and the fucking drag queen from the Tropicana.
Hey, I want to say one thing, Jim, because I have been critical on various shows in the last several years of Jim Ross's work, of his professionalism. I have to say, this is, I think, the best he has done in years. You could tell he was motivated. You could tell he was into it. I wish at times that maybe, at least one of the guys next to him was as well. But, I've been critical of him when I think that he has done a poor job. I want to say when I think he's done a really good job. He did a really good job here. Well,
show. and I will pick at a couple of things here in a minute that I don't believe was his fault, but I'll agree with you when he had something that he could look at, that he could praise with a full-throated endorsement. But you also didn't hear him and me and Alex Shane at the What Culture
Wrestlelicious.
No, not wrestling. The What Culture wrestling pay-per-view we did 2 years ago in England.
No,
that was we both fired on all cylinders. That was my bucket list. Do one more show with JR, and we did that. Anyway, all three of the announcers are now joined by Allie, the girl from TNA, for color, because it's a triple threat match. Kylie Rae, Nyla Rose, and Dr. Britt Baker. But they bring Allie in for color, and obviously they have not produced her and told her what to say, or elsewise this was the best she could do, folks. In which case, don't ever put a microphone. Allie's exact quote about Kylie Rae: "Look at how happy she is. My eyes watered. I'm so happy for her." What the fuck?
Can I add one more thing I want to add, because now we're talking about a four-man booth. Four-person booth.
Four-person booth.
One of the worst things to happen to wrestling is the three-man booth. It is so unnecessary, and it's almost always garbage. Two-man booth is good, and in some cases, one man. That's all you need. But let's go with two-man. You don't need a three-man booth for any situation in professional wrestling unless somehow the lead heel or the lead babyface is sitting down to talk about their opponent in the ring, and Boyd Pierce shuts up for a little while. You don't need a three-man booth, and no one should ever do one again.
And I agree with you. And Norma, and also now I just did one for the Crockett Cup, but Ian Riccaboni and Joe Galley, but we kind of made it work because everybody kind of praised it. So, and also we knew when to get in and get out. But here was JR says to Allie, says, "How do you prepare for Nyla Rose?" She said, "Oh my God, I'm not sure." So what the fuck? Somehow this announcing just got worse. Then Brandy comes out with a microphone and says she wants an awesome match and introduces Awesome Kong and makes it a four-way, and the place blows because Kong is a star. And now here's how they fuck this up from a creative standpoint. You've got Kylie Rae and you've got obviously Dr. Britt Baker. They want, I believe, to make a main girl on this girl's roster, right?
Yes, definitely.
Nyla Rose, it looks like a beast. She's huge and she's powerful and she has this surly look. She would be Awesome Kong, except that Awesome Kong's in the fucking ring. And so they bring out Kong. She shrugs off the little ones. She nails Nyla Rose to the floor, misses a splash, and goes over the top, and she's gone. She's immobilized Kong, she's been immobilized for some time now, because now here comes Britt Baker and fucking Kylie Rae just doing spots. Both of the beasts, the monster heels in the match, have been immobilized, especially the monster that's a star, that's a surprise, that was over. Nyla Rose should have been in this. She has potential. She should have been saved or saved Kong against Nyla Rose for a money match sometime. The other girls were doing too much stuff. Kong was missing. They killed her Impact. Then she finally gets in for a big triple Zabada move, but then the two little girls super kick Kong and Rose spears her into the steps, and now Nyla Rose is out and Kong's out for the rest of the match. And boom, then the Baker and Callie Ray have more match, and then Baker wins, and neither Nyla Rose or Kong is nowhere to be seen. They could have had a singles match between Britt Baker and Kylie Ray and got Britt Baker over. Or they could have had the three-way with the original girls and some way or another had the two girls team up on the monster to subdue her until Britt could have got the win. Or they could have brought Kong out against anybody except Nyla Rose and smashed her over because if she's going to come back. But it wasted Kong. It didn't do anything for Nyla Rose. And Britt Baker got over like she would have if she'd have just beat anybody one-on-one. What the fuck? Anyway, let's pick this up. This is going to take a while. The next match, the best friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, take on Angelico and Jack Evans. You can imagine what I'm going to think about this, especially after seeing guys that really know what they're fucking doing. Jack Evans from Ring of Honor 15 years ago, he was sloppy and reckless. He physically looks like shit. He break dances and skateboards and he looks like it. He might weigh 150 fucking pounds, but now he's old and has weird hair, strange elbow pads, and goofy looking shorts. And he flips all over the place and it means nothing and it's just a goddamn show. Trent Beretta's a good looking athlete. Chuck Taylor is the invisible hand grenade guy, so I'll pretend he's not here. He's physically dumpy. He has a stupid haircut. He looks like a goddamn guy that ought to be working at a fucking Kroger bagging instead of an athlete. And Angelico is in fluorescent lime green with no mask, so he's a white guy, but he's Angelico or Angelico or whatever the fuck. But he's a white guy. I don't fucking know. Bunch of flips and kicks. Beretta's the only one of the four, I'm reading my notes now, that I would have even put on OVW TV. He took a great Ray Stevens bump. The fucking hand grenade guy got in the way of this thing for quite a while and kept me from seeing Beretta. And the match went back and forth and made no sense. Then, in the middle of the match, they go to hug each other. And the people pop because, once again, this crowd knows what the fuck. They've come from every corner of the world to see this. And they know, but they didn't explain why the fuck that they are best friends or why the fuck they hug or why the people are cheering that they're hugging. It's just more phony bullshit. Then the whole match comes to a dead stop. Then Jack Evans and Angelico do a bunch of shit. This is taking forever. Evans did a big dive and missed the guy, but came right back in and 650 splashed Beretta. Just a mess. These guys hit about 5 double teams and won. Taylor and Beretta.
I didn't like this at all. I hated this.
Beretta needs to dump Dumpy and be a single. He's got something. And the other two guys, Evans and Angelico, need to cosplay elsewhere. And then but okay, now here, coming up, and you can give your thoughts on the whole match, but let's go all the way to the end. Then they all four hugged each other after they beat each other up for the past 20 minutes. And then the lights go out. And when the lights come back on, 2 guys in the ring nobody recognizes. And then the lights go off again. And then the lights come back on. And there's a bunch of masked guys around the ring that pull the 2 teams that just wrestled out and kick the shit out of them while the guys and the people are chanting, "Who are you?" at these 2 guys in the ring, and JR is verbally eye rolling. I can tell when JR verbally eye rolls. What was that?
First of all, remember a little earlier I said that one of the worst things in wrestling is the 3-man announce booth? Yes. I also said that I hate the backstage segments. That's another thing wrestling should dump. One of the other things on that list is the lazy booking crutch of let's turn out the lights and then turn them back on and poof, Sabu's in the ring. Like, that is the laziest booking bullshit. Because what are you supposed to believe? The lighting man is in cahoots?
Well, yeah,
with the weirdos in the ring?
But besides that, who were the people in the fucking ring?
Apparently, they are a team known, and not for long, because Nintendo will definitely shut this down. as the Super Smash Brothers.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I don't know these guys. You know these guys?
Oh, my God. They used to do jobs on Ring of Honor television when it was on HDNet because they kept booking them because they'd drive down from Montreal for cheap and Steen liked them. Remember I told a story on a drive-thru one time. I saw the one without his mask. One guy was masked and one guy wasn't, and they're video game characters, and they did all flippy shit and made no sense. And I saw one guy without his mask on and thought he was the guy working in a concession stand at the building. Because it was just and people. That's before the Young Bucks. Back in 2011 and 10, people on the internet were saying the Super Smash Brothers are the greatest tag team in wrestling. And the first thing I did when I got any pull at all was to get them off the fucking television program because it was embarrassing. So okay, well there you go.
They're back.
Okay, All Out. The next big event is announced, and in the on-camera, Marvez fumbled the ticket on sale date, and I just fumbled that. But he got the wrong date for the tickets to go on sale. Then we had a Japanese 6-girl tag match, and I was running late because I was pausing to fucking write so much of this down, so this was a good place to catch up. And 15 minutes later, the first team that came out won. Oh, baby, I need to get Harley her allergy medicine. She's got the hacks today. So then an on camera with the announcers obviously filling with nothing to say. And this is where even JR was lost and had no idea where they were going and had to say, I don't know where I'm going here, guys. The production from a technical standpoint was so good. I have to think that that's people in their ear telling them something's not ready. Talent's not in position. The VTR isn't queued up. Phil, we don't know what we're going to do, right? Because they don't usually come out and say, we don't know where we're going. But they started talking about Cody and Dustin, and they played the Cody and Dustin package from earlier. On Cody's entrance, minor glitch, the camera pointed to the wrong tunnel because they had babyface and heel tunnels, and that was a good touch. And he had the big chair, and he's got the robe that looks like Sgt. Pepper, and the sledgehammer. I guess he hit the chair with the sledgehammer, and it blew up, and that was a shot at Triple H. Triple H, because, I don't watch a lot of these pay-per-views. Triple H do thrones a lot?
Well, he did, I think, at WrestleMania, and obviously the sledgehammer's his thing, and from what I heard, it was supposed to be a much bigger, he hits it and the whole thing crumbles, and it didn't happen, but you can't really complain about the pettiness and childishness of the WWE and then do the same thing. Because that's what it came across as to me, at least. I know a lot of people there pop because, hey, he's taking on Triple H. But by the way, if you have a problem with them, Triple H isn't the problem. It's the old man.
Yeah.
So
well, but also, honestly, I was just happy that the sledgehammer wasn't something he was going to use in the match. I'm like, oh, no, not this again. But anyway, business, as they say, is about to pick up. Dustin made his entrance. That wild outfit and the face paint, he looks in great shape. And then they had the people eating out of their hands. They took their time. They didn't fucking run off and leave them. And folks, 2 brothers, both of them from different generations, the sons of a legitimate superstar that always wanted to live up to their father's expectations. It never quite happened for Dustin that he would be the top guy. Now in this world, Cody is being portrayed as the top guy. And that's a story. You can believe it. Plus, both guys know how to work. And the people were eating out of their hand. They came to like everything, but they really liked this, and they liked it because it worked. They worked. They had a nice heat spot with Brandy throwing the water in Dustin's eyes. The little handoff of the water bottle from Cody a minute beforehand. Marvez, I wrote, Marvez killing me here doing bad golf announcing with a gee-whiz accent. Excalibur wouldn't be rotten with a real name and no mask, I wrote down. They did that turnbuckle spot that was kind of awkward, but Brandy spearing Dustin woke him up, and she hit him with a hell of a spear. And somebody's, well, okay, it's a little girl hitting. Well, he turns around. He's been beat up. He turns around disoriented, and somebody clocks him. It was a nice little spot. And then obviously that was made for Hebner to kick her out, and the people went ballistic, and that got DDP in there to carry her out, and that was another fucking deal. And then here, Dustin got the color while everybody was distracted. And sold great, being disoriented. And all of a sudden, they're having a pro wrestling match. He's pouring blood. Here's the drama. He's fighting from underneath. The crowd is with him. They actually got a figure 4 and turned it over. And the people blew. Dustin whipping Cody with his own fucking belt. The people are standing up now. They nearly died on the top rope superplex. But they did great false finishes where people could buy it. The people were going apeshit. They traded those shots. Cody finally hits the fucking big move in the Crossroads. And afterwards, people are fucking going nuts about it. Everybody was saying it was the best match of Dustin Rhodes' career. It may have been. He probably had better matches technically as Goldust. I always thought Dustin was a hell of a worker. He was a natural. I never liked the gimmick because that was the first Goldust, because that was the first of Shit Stain's fucking showbiz bullshit that he managed to foist in. And but anyway, Dustin's always been able to do it, and I thought Cody hung with him great here. And then the promo afterwards, where they played off of the promo that everybody remembers Dusty and Dustin doing, asked Dustin to be his partner against the Bucks in Jacksonville, and I need my older brother. And this was the way that you hug after a wrestling match, not to fucking sissy-ass fucking goofy, silly best friends. Is it two nerds that don't even have the balls to be gay hugging? It was the way that Beretta and fucking Dicklick came off, but this was a hug from two guys that have reconciled after beating the shit out of each other. This was a pro wrestling match. What'd you think?
I thought it was the best match I've ever seen Cody have, because I'm not a fan of Cody as a worker, as you seem to be.
Well, actually, it's the best. I've seen 3 Cody matches, and this was the best one, so there you go.
Usually, to me, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors to hide what he can't do in the ring. I thought this was the best Cody match I've ever seen. I think Dustin Rhodes is like a fine wine, because I've been watching him since 1990. He gets better with age, and he's so good. I sincerely hope that his body is well enough that he doesn't have to retire and that he could work somewhat semi-regularly for AEW, because he would be a tremendous asset in the ring beyond whatever asset he would be backstage. I'm a big fan of Dustin Rhodes, and I think he did tremendous here. In terms of the post-match thing, I think it was obviously great for that room. I mean, that room was going to pop for everything. They were chanting AEW before anything even happened on the fucking show. But to me, in the overall context of things, I just saw this promotional package. Dustin should have said, fuck you. You need a brother now? Now you need a brother? I actually thought, I put on Twitter and some people got upset. I said he should have done a swerve and said, I got news for you. I'm Dick Murdoch's son, and walk out of the room. But you know, that was the only thing I didn't like, was just the idea that they so quickly made up and they're brothers and they're going to move on.
It didn't take a year like it did with Ole and Dusty to convince Dusty to be his partner.
It took 2 months since he got released from the WWE. That's how long the whole feud went. I thought that was disappointing, but beyond that, I thought this is the best Cody Rhodes match I've ever seen. I think Dustin is tremendous in the ring, and I think the biggest detriment I could say is that when you see something like that, and it's hard to see that and not think of it as a massive positive, what hurts it is the fact that you've had goofy shit on this show. Yeah. Because then the show is schizophrenic.
Well, that's the thing, is the goofs being on here diminished what these guys did, because we've already been conditioned in our brains to not take this too seriously, because it's kind of so all of a sudden, you know, we're surprised that something so good is broken out on an outlaw show. But I get where you're going with that. But it was that match and whole deal would have been in place in a Jim Crockett Promotions show in the 80s or any of the great territories. It was wrestling, and that's timeless. So, but then we go to the on camera where they're going to recap the Battle Royal and Adam Page's win. And I wrote, Excalibur stumbled through this like a drunken sailor. They were just because they were trying to live VO it. Marvez stumbled into an introduction of somebody named Jack Whitehall, who introduced Bret Hart to bring the AEW belt out, who I guess was replacing Flair because of Flair's health issues.
And by the way, apparently this Jack Whitehall is a comedian or a performer in England, Because I immediately put on Twitter, why wasn't this guy ring announcing all night? Because I'm not a Justin Roberts fan. I think he's just not a good ring announcer. And
it was a little much.
And I haven't heard anyone clamoring for Justin Roberts to return since he was fired from WWE. So it's questionable. I think he was friends with some people there, so he got a job there.
Well, he's a nice guy. I've met him.
I'm not saying anything about him as a person. And that's one of the sad things. Whenever you say anything that's a critical point about anyone in AEW, they'll just jump on you to the point where you have to preface it by saying, I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure he's a great person. But I saw this guy introduce Bret Hart, and I said, that guy should have been ring announcing all night. That was energy. That felt real. It didn't feel like someone forcing themselves to be a ring announcer. I don't know why they had Justin Roberts. Again, I'm sure he's a wonderful guy. Uses his left and right turn indicators, but I wouldn't have had him on my show.
Well, but anyway, out comes Bret. He's got this AEW belt. Looks like a monster. The fans were batshit over Bret because they didn't know they were going to get him. He intros Adam Page. Here he comes. And then MJF interrupts. And he's got tons of heat. And I wrote that MJF is the best promo in the business today. This was worth watching the rest of the show for. He even, watch out, Bret, there's a fan coming. Oh, no, just kidding. I mean, all that shit. His delivery, and once again, it's him.
He's super.
And because of if he was 6'7" and 300 pounds, nothing would work. He looks like a professional athlete, but yet he's small enough that he can be that chicken shit, smarmy big mouth that needs backup at some point, and it blah, 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 but he's perfect.
I want to slap him.
Anyway, yes, there you go.
The ultimate compliment. I want to slap him.
And Jungle Boy comes out as he's getting on Bret Hart and Adam Page, and I'm buying this stuff. Then here comes Jungle Boy, who's, Luke Perry's son, and bless him, and fucking Jimmy Havoc, and all three of them, Jungle Boy and Page and Havoc, beat MJF up and run him off. And I didn't understand this. They had something. You could have MJF and Paige have a confrontation verbally. Paige could have beat him up because Paige is obviously a main event guy. But remember, he was in the same battle royal that a legless guy, a drag queen from the Tropicana, a guy with a fucking dinosaur mask, and a guy painted fucking yellow, a guy with his hands in his pocket, and a fucking goddamn however many else. They were all vying for the same prize, right? But instead of having Paige and MJF interact, you put Jungle Boy and Havoc in it. There's no reason to mix these fucking preliminary guys that ain't going to draw any money in with these two top guys. It made no sense. It made no fucking sense.
I don't understand why they would have done anything that could potentially hurt any of his heat in this manner.
Exactly. Yeah.
On this show. And I don't get Jimmy Havoc at all. I don't know who this guy is. I'm assuming a hardcore deathmatch
from
wrestler.
England. He's the one, and he'll be at MLW again, folks. You heard me call his last match. I wish I'd called his last match, but I'm sorry. The guy was a nice enough guy, but fuck. All this slice yourself up hardcore shit and staple guns, and his wounds open up and he's got scars everywhere. This is what we need to get this business away from on both sides of the pond. I'm sorry if that fucking disrupts anybody's good day. Anyway, then we have a Bucks package. They show them as kids in the backyard and on indie shows, and I couldn't really tell the difference. Then they showed the Bucks and Lucha Brothers angle at the press conference because they have got the AAA tag team titles on the line. The Bucks are the AAA tag team champions. They're going to so AEW's first event is featuring a championship from another promotion before it ever has champions of its own. JR asked Marvez to put the Lucha Brothers over. Tell us about the Lucha Brothers. And he talked about how they used to play wrestler as kids with underwear for masks or whatever the fuck. Not their incredible popularity in their native country, where they are currently the faces of the Mexican cultural art form known as Lucha Libre and are the idols of millions. Oh. No, they used to play in their mother's backyard wrestler like all the rest of these fucking guys. The Bucks are the most physically unintimidating two wrestlers ever, and their outfits look like Elvis impersonators. Justin Roberts sounded like he was shitting bricks introducing them. The Bucks did more lucha than the Lucha Brothers. It was a great gymnastics floor exercise, but it was scrambled eggs. It made no sense and just moves back and forth. No babyface shine, no heat by the heels. If there were heels, they were cheering for everybody. Just moves back and forth. And here's the thing. I call the Lucha Brothers matches in MLW when they're working with other luchadors. At least then it's fucking authentic. At least then it's real. But instead, you've got two white kids who don't look like they can whip anybody out luchaing the lucha guys. MLW has found an audience by crossing lucha and American pro wrestling, but not on the TNT network. I don't know that I think there's a Hispanic lucha audience, especially in Chicago. Come see the luchadors. And I don't think they like watching white guys cosplaying as luchadors. And I think that there's a bunch of Americans that are going to be watching the TNT network in fucking Oklahoma, or that's actually close to Mexico. How about fucking North Dakota, that don't know why these young white kids that looks like they can't whip anybody are flying around with these Mexicans that they haven't heard of because they've just seen this new program. If you're going to do lucha, do lucha. If you're going to do American pro wrestling, do American pro wrestling. The Bucks don't do either. They do gymnastics. This went on forever. Then they all got lost. Then the Bucks did 18 double team moves. Then they hit their big move, 1, 2, 3. I prayed for this to end, and I don't even believe in God. The only way that the Bucks are ever going to draw money on a mainstream level is if they first get them over as not these little smart asses, but as these overachievers that actually have decent personalities and actually take this shit seriously and get mad once in a while, especially when they've been anal raped by their opponents, and they're going to need some team bigger than them and more aggressive than them to beat the piss out of them and make them bleed a little bit and waltz them across hell with gasoline britches on and make people feel sorry for them so they can make a comeback. That way they might could draw some money.
The former Revival will be the ones doing that.
Well, they certainly would fit that picture, and I'd love to see them bloody them up. But regardless, that's where the Bucks are going to draw money. These kind of matches, you can't follow it unless you are culturally a fan of lucha or a hardcore American fan. You're not going to be able to follow these matches. Then they had another awkward on camera, and JR was desperately trying to get something out of Marvez and the Masked Outlaw and make this fiasco seem somehow important. And then they do a great Omega Jericho package. Jericho sounds believable. Omega sounds like Bob Ross painting the happy little clouds. Jericho's entrance with the blackouts and different incarnations. I think they may be overthinking this shit at this point to do that fancy of a ring introduction when you had a legless guy, etc., in your opening match. There was a Cracker Barrel in the ring. It said Cracker Barrel on the side of it, and it was a barrel in the ring that they wheeled out when Jericho got in. I don't have any idea what that was. Omega makes his entrance, blah. I'm sorry. Besides yes, I realize why some people might like him. And today he passes for okay with the bar lowered. I can't forget what he's fucking done, and he's not deserving of my critique as a pro wrestler because he violated his right to be viewed as a pro wrestler when he did all the things he did in the ring in front of people. But also, even if he hadn't done that and I was just seeing him, I think he makes goofy facials. He reminds me a little Ultimate Warrior-ish in his head movements. And he doesn't strike me as really fighting, really mad, really emotional, really tough, really whatever the fuck. He's ballet dancing out there, and all I can hear is his words talking about how he likes to paint his pictures and do his art in whatever form. And I'd love to. 5 minutes with him and Dick Murdoch in the ring in front of people, I would give almost every penny I have.
Even more than the Bucks, I think when they go to TNT, Cody's in the best position in terms of being able to get over quickly with new people. Not just because of his name, but just because of how he carries himself.
He knows how to, he may not be the goddamn greatest worker ever, but he knows how to work.
I think he's in the best position. I think the Young Bucks will be interesting. Omega's going to be really interesting. How are casual fans, how are new fans going to take to him? Because he is an acquired taste in terms of how he carries himself. He can have excellent matches, but you can't build the world around work rate. You can't build it around work rate when you're trying to get lapsed fans or casual fans. It's going to be very interesting, I think, to see. And I think a lot of the buzz with him has died down.
But besides that, he comes off to a regular person, not a diehard fan who reads the internet and who gets the YouTube videos and the DVDs or however the fuck watches New Japan, everything. He comes off as more of a heel than a babyface because he comes off weird to me. To an average wrestling fan, you would think he was a heel with the goofy hair and the whole 9 yards. I don't know. He just anyway, fucking nerd. He's a fucking 30-something-year-old video game nerd. Apparently, is what he is. Anyway,
there's nothing wrong with video games.
When you're making fucking videos in your brand new promotion that you're anal raping the guy for money because you're obviously not being fiduciarily responsible with some of this fucking outlaw talent you put on the air, and one of the expenses is making a fucking piece of video where all of you are characters in a video game, you like video games too much.
You may have a point there, but video games in general, I just want to say, are all right. I play video games.
Fucking Jesus Christ. Anyway, my notes on this. Jericho led the guy well and kept him on the right path. Omega reminds me of a slightly more talented Tom McGee. Omega's goofy facials and phony firing up body shaking drive me insane. This went too long. Jericho hit a few things and a back elbow 1, 2, 3. The heel beat the babyface clean. At least he beat Omega. And then Jericho cuts the promo, and Omega just laid there in the ring the whole time, which was the best use of him. And then here comes Dean Ambrose in. And remember where I said that Omega didn't have any of the things that passion, emotion, anger, whatever the fuck. Here comes Dean Ambrose and brings some extra for everybody else. He was so happy to be here. Apparently, I was right again when we reviewed what was one of the Raws that we reviewed earlier this year. And I said, Dean Ambrose, who I've heard so much about, walked in, looked like he was going to catch a bus, and he didn't care whether he was late or not. This fucking guy has been freed and released, apparently. And he came in, and whether you like him or not, and I haven't seen really, I don't know that I've seen an entire Dean Ambrose match. But I want to see a little more now after he brought the fucking shit. He's DDTing and everybody. He gets to the brawl with Omega. Omega, by the way, is a lousy brawler because that requires it to look like you're really having a fight. I don't know if he's ever even been in one. But Ambrose picked things up. Not only were the people ready to see him, but it's not like he walked in and did a bunch of bullshit. He had the oomph to him. You want to see more about this. So if they'd have just cut the match a little shorter and give me some more Ambrose, I'd have liked it better.
I came out of this show wanting to see more Ambrose, more Dustin Rhodes, less Kenny Omega, to be honest.
Yeah.
More
MJF.
Much more MJF, but I have to say this, and you're going to probably disagree with me on this. I thought having Jericho go over was the right move because he's clearly the biggest star in that company from a mainstream perspective.
Well, yeah.
However, he looked like shit.
Well, first of all, fucking give the babyface an out unless you're just finished with him. And I don't think they're finished with Omega. I would have given the babyface an out. But Jericho's almost fucking 50. Dustin's 50. Jericho's the two of the standout guys were, almost ready for AARP. But I thought, Jericho and Omega didn't stink, and I'm going to give no credit to Omega. So Jericho has to get the credit from me.
Again, though, like to my earlier point, Jim Ross, to me, came across like a guy motivated. Yeah. A guy who took this serious. Jericho obviously likes the money and everything, but again, I hate to be superficial. It's the worst I've ever seen him physically look. He looked like shit. And he's had plenty of time to get into shape. It's not like he's working a big schedule or anything.
Well, but you're grading on the curve also. Maybe he looked like shit for Jericho. No. But remember, we've actually seen people that actually looked like shit earlier on this program. So you can't say that Jericho looked like Marco Stunt.
He looked like shit. He looked awful. He looked awful.
I didn't notice it that bad. All right,
I'll fit into his trunks. And his hair weave is fucking ridiculous. But I know you.
Is that not his hair? I did not know that.
I'm pretty sure that ain't his hair.
Well, now don't spread shit that you don't know.
Allegedly,
it's
a hair weave and it's ridiculous.
Well, anyway,
embrace boldness.
But here's the thing: I did not want to shit on all of that, but most of the things that I shit on, there was no reason for him to be there. If they had taken that battle royal off the instead of giving all their friends a payoff, they should have given their friends a payoff to stay home and not shit on their first show. But if they'd have taken that battle royal out, and if they had the thought that maybe we need more than one experienced announcer on a major league level, and maybe let's let Excalibur be a real person, and because our salesmen have to be the ones that are trusted. When you're, and I know years ago it was great to have Jesse Ventura or Jerry Lawler, the gimmick as the heel color commentator, but that's so done. The Mike Goldberg and Joe Rogan, the announcer play-by-play and the ex-jock, well-spoken ex-jock color guy, even though Joe Rogan wasn't an ex-jock, but he played that part on television. That's what should be the goal for most wrestling promotions these days. And instead, they're doing outlaw shit when they're announcers. The salesmen are not supposed to be gimmicks. They're supposed to be straight so that you believe them when they're selling you the gimmicks. If just these self-inflicted wounds, that battle royal was completely uncalled for. And you can't tell me that a couple of those other, like the one single match, that they had to have some more fucking talent that they've signed than what we, but this is everybody that does stupid shit on independent shows. And that's what I was calling attention to when we would start seeing them signed. And that's what they've allowed to happen. And they think that somehow when guys go out and work hard and risk their lives in the main event, guys with talent, whether it be a Daniels or an MJF or a fucking goddamn Dustin or anybody, has serious matches with talent that the people can get into. They've done them a disservice by planning in those people's minds, well, remember, this is all bullshit and we shouldn't take any of it seriously, because they don't. And secondly, they've taken up a spot that they could have actually, there's a lot of good talent out there in wrestling that was not on this show, that is not signed, and they could have found some rather than a guy that sticks his hands in his fucking pockets, playing with his little fucking weenie while he's down there. It disgusts me. That's the kind of guy that I would fucking basically boycott a program and I'm sorry. And once again, I'm disappointed in Billy Gunn, Tommy Dreamer for being in the ring with that shit. That's something I would say, look, how important is it for me to be here on this show versus the fucking guy with his hands in his pockets? Because one of us ain't going to be on it. You pick.
Tommy Dreamer's done more stupid shit in his career than most people. Nothing ever shocks me or surprises me that when he's involved with it.
Tommy, I apologize, but that just anyway. So we will see. Now, here's the thing. Were they even trying to make new fans with this show, or were they just doing it for the people that they knew were going to be primarily the ones tuning in? Maybe there weren't any new fans that even tuned in or that bought the $50 pay-per-view from a company they've never seen.
I thought that was a mistake.
When Greg Gilliland wanted to charge $60 front row on our first Ring of Honor show in Charleston, West Virginia. But I digress. Maybe they didn't expect any new fans or didn't plan for any new fans, and they just assumed that everybody knew how to get into the private club, that everybody knows the backstory and the history, and that it's entirely acceptable for legless people and transvestites. And by the way, yes, I did manage the exotic Adrian Street, who was also a badass Welsh fucking shooter that would pull your eyeballs out. I don't get that impression from Sonny Kiss, but at least we knew what Adrian's story was and what was going on. The point is, they've got until October to fix this. And if they do, then maybe they'll make some new fans. But if they just assume that a large number of casual fans and people that have not been following this shit, at the detriment of their own personal lives and families, if they think that a bunch of people are going to like legless people and fucking all this other shit in the middle of a wrestling ring on television and then want to invest more either emotionally or financially, you're crazy. And if it's the people that are advising Tony Khan, and this, by the way, is free advice, Tony. I'm not even going to take a check from you like probably a lot of other people are to tell you what to do, because this is obvious. This is not even worth any money, what I've said here today, because it's so obvious. You could get it free from anybody that's been around wrestling for more than fucking a short time and is not lobbying for a check. And thus why I say, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. If it was the people telling you what to do, Mr. Khan, you need to get new people telling you what to do. And if it was your idea, you need to let them call more of the shots and keep your ideas out of it, because there was you've got a great production. You have all the money in the world. You've got a great television deal. You've got a small number of recognized superstars, and you've got a small number of young guys that can be, and you've got a lot of shit in the way of people seeing them. And this shit before October needs to be weeded out and straightened up, and a focus needs to be put on so that you can tell people who they are, why they are there, who they're mad at, what their goals are, and why I should care. And they can't look like a Saturday Night Live sketch when you do that. And hopefully Jim Ross, and I'm not lobbying for this job either, will either have an unmasked color guy on TV, on TNT in the fall, or the announcing team will be bolstered because you're liable to give Jim Ross a fucking stroke trying to carry that much weight by himself. So there's a lot of positives and there's some negatives, and a lot of the negatives were self-inflicted just because guys think that this shit's all supposed to be cute, and they're going to come to a rude awakening that in the mainstream world, to draw that many viewers, they don't want fucking cute and silly and fucking hokey.
Guys just jerking off all over each other. I mean, that's really what it is. Just guys.
Actually, there's a big market for that. From what I've heard, there's a huge market for that. But in this case, these guys are doing it figuratively rather than literally. There's only a big market for it if they do it literally. And that may be next to try to make Tony Khan some of his money back if they don't get their shit together.
Let me ask you a couple questions, but also say a couple things. One, Alex Marvez was Tony Khan, because I believe they're friends. So that was a major mistake, and he should not be on a broadcast ever again. I don't want to hear, oh, he'll improve. I've heard enough. I don't want to hear anymore.
As I said to him at the HDNet about Mike Hogwood, I don't have long enough to live that this guy will become a good wrestling announcer.
In terms of the production, in general, I think it was good. However, the camera cuts, this thing that the WWE is real. I mean, luckily they didn't zoom in and out like the WWE does, but too many quick cuts that are unnecessary. Let me enjoy the action without the camera going back and forth.
I can tell you from being in a number of production trucks, a lot of times they try to do that when guys that are in the ring that their shit doesn't look good, and they try to cut on impact so it's not so see-through. So there may be more to that story here.
Or maybe not. Or maybe they just didn't know any better.
And maybe that's bad. But, I don't know who the director was. That'd be interesting to find out.
2 questions for you, Jim. I've heard from a lot of people, and again, if you say anything even remotely critical, there are people ready to pull their hairs out and go crazy. I've seen more trolls on Twitter just making some comments about AEW than any other time in my life. People said it was one of the greatest pay-per-views of all time. What do you think of that?
No, that's fucking ridiculous. And it's not even an insult to say that's fucking ridiculous. Can you put it up against fucking Great American Bash 89? Can you put it up against the July 97 Calgary Stampede WWE pay-per-view? Can you put it up against a couple of the real good WrestleManias? No, for fuck's sake. And in terms of professionalism, both in the ring, top to bottom, on the microphone, top to bottom, behind the scenes, top to bottom, there's been a number of much, and that's not even an insult, because think how many hundreds and thousands of pay-per-views there have been. But no, you're smoking the hopium to say this was one of the greatest wrestling pay-per-views of all time. And here's the thing. A lot of people, the old style fans are like I am. They don't grade on one great match, but it was a fucking abortion and an insult, and I was offended by the third match. When you see something that's that shitty as that Battle Royal, that hangs with you and grades the whole fucking show down. And I'm sorry, that's the way a lot of people fucking think. So no, one of the greatest shows of all time? No, my God. As a debut show from a brand new cut, we saw how they can go south with the NWA 70th anniversary with the bad audio and et cetera. But of course, there wasn't as much money involved in that as there was in this one. But no, this was a fine effort, except for the things that we pointed out, almost everybody's part. But one of the greatest of all time, you're on acid.
I gave it thumbs in the middle for the record. Because like you said, there was good stuff and there was bad stuff. I actually liked the Bucks match a little more than you did, and I'm not a Bucks fan. But
they did a lot of good stuff. It just as a tag team guy, and it doesn't make any sense.
And I understand, and for the most part, I agree with you. I completely agree with you. I think they're vastly overrated. It's more of a cult of personality than it is, these guys, for me at least. But
and hey, that's fine, because personality is what gets you over and makes you sell tickets. But the problem is when what you do detracts from what everybody else in the industry does, it's, then who's more important? You or the whole business? Anyway.
In terms of your tweet, because it got a little bit of attention, explain it for the people out there wondering. Was it, you could buy the plane, but doesn't mean you should fly the plane? Was that what it was?
No, I said just because you can buy the plane doesn't mean you know how to fly it. I was, frankly, let down by them that they would field an unprofessional broadcast team, that they would put obvious outlaw talent in the ring, that they would do silly shit like that. And when a guy says wins and losses matter, he's actually a professional sports guy, and he's letting legless people eliminate people, and guys pour body oil all over them, or baby oil all over themselves, and staple gun and blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, that's Tony Khan's responsibility. And my God, I was in meetings where they talked about the standards at Turner Television. You think they're going to let somebody staple gun another motherfucker in the nuts at 9 o'clock on Tuesday night or whenever? Fuck, we didn't used to be able to get them to let us goddamn choke somebody in a wrestling match. I was disappointed that they would put their first foot forward and do some of these things. Self-inflicted. There was no reason for it. It didn't have to happen. And not a single soul would have missed all that shit I said in that battle royal. Every ticket would have still been sold. Nobody would have asked for their money back. If none of that had happened, nobody would have missed it. Nobody would have cared. Nobody wanted to see those guys did those stupid spots. No, half the people probably didn't even know they existed. Self-inflicted wounds on your first major show. If I had had a match like that on my first Smoky Mountain Wrestling show in Knoxville, I would have gone out and jumped in front of traffic. So they got a lot of potential and they got a lot of work to do. And some of this just needs to be knowing when to grow up and be real men, Pinocchio, and real boys, instead of this fucking outlaw bullshit, indie, cute horse shit. Quit playing video games and go out and get in the fucking real world and see how people like it when they actually are watching a fucking fight. You can watch your own show, Cody and Dustin. It's the best thing on the whole program. It was the best thing on any wrestling show that I've seen in fucking months. And I've seen a lot of them over the past few months, it seems like. Anyway, I'm going to, you know what I'm going to do, Brian? I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do.
What's that?
I'm going to close this program because I got shit to do. I think we've made our point, and the thunder is drawing near. It may be fucking AEW.
I heard that. Wow.
Yeah. All right, folks.
And don't just hire people because they're your friends. Another lesson.
Yes, that's a good. Just give them some money if they're your friends. Just don't let them be on the show. We will be back next week with more stuff, and I will talk to you soon. Until then, for Brian and Harley, thank you. Fuck you. Bye-bye, everybody.